Dave, can you check see if anybody signed up for public?
Actually, I
Well, while you're up there, let me know if there's anybody else. Okay.
Town resident wrote me a letter, which I'd like to read to you. I'd like to preface this. I'll make a comment afterwards myself. David Lawson, Town Council member, please share with Town Council members. I want to bring some problems to your attention. More than 2 years ago, Long Mountain Road was repaired. Trap rock was put on the entire roadside. Consequently, the roadside lawn cannot be mowed. Twice this year, the trap rocks were hit by vehicles, causing rocks to enter the roadway. The rocks are very sharp and difficult to drive over. I called the mayor's office to report said incident. No one was called to clean up the debris. Snow plowing in the winter brings more of trap rocks into the roadway, making driving difficult. M&O did the paving job. A curb was to have been put in and rock covered with soil. This was not done. And it's signed by 3 residents of Long Mountain Road, Susan Custis, Tracy Wells, and I'm sorry, I can't really read the last one. But as I said, it is my understanding that the resident, there was an attempt to contact her in person, and unfortunately, she wasn't home, so I trust that this is going to get resolved one way or the other.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
That was it, Dave? No one else? No. Okay. Item 3. Move to accept the consent agenda items 3A, B, and C.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes, I have just some comments to make. Item C was involving donations made to Milford Park and Rec, and they would like to thank people for that. We had a donation of $1,100 from Village Crest Center for Health and Rehabilitation towards the purchase of a tree and a plaque to be placed on the town green in honor of our strong, proud, and united community. That donation from Village Crest will be put into the park gift fund. Also, a donation of $750 from an anonymous donor through the United Way of Western Connecticut to be used for various youth programs from New Milford Parks and Rec. That check will be deposited after July 1st into the program-specific self-sustaining account number 104-505-00-5353408. And Parks and Rec would like to thank Village Crest. Parks and Rec is also asking that we accept the donations they received for their road race, which is as follows: $250 from Bakewell and Mulhare, $250 from Savings Bank of Danbury, $50 from Stu Leonard's, $750 from Union Savings Bank, a $50 Costco gift card, $500 donation from Dawn Howe of Coldwell Banker, $250 from Yardscapes, $500 from New Vance Health, and the donation of 6 cases of water from BJ's, and $50 gift card from Walmart. And they'd like to thank all of those people for their generosity.
So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you.
Item number 4 is an update from
Aye.
Dr. Levin. Is he
Don't
with
see
us?
Dr. Levin here today.
All right.
So
You
we
want
can
to do
move-
it yourself, or you want to move on?
I'll do that on mayor's comments.
Okay, number 5 would be mayor's comments.
Thank you, Katie. Real quick on our COVID numbers, and speaking with our health director, Lisa Morrissey, as we talk about each and every time, these are numbers in totality. These aren't numbers that are current, number of people that are confirmed. In the state of Connecticut, there's 319,590. Litchfield County's is 13,001. That's up 2 from Friday. Hospitalizations for the entire county of Litchfield is 2. That's up 2 from Friday. New Milford is at 2,429, and that's unchanged from Friday. What the great news is we continue to see here in New Milford, numbers either 1 or 2 are unchanged, and that's due to the fact that we have a very good vaccination rate. As of 6/24/21, which is the latest date we have, and that's with a 10 to 14 day delay or look back. Currently, those with at least 1 dose of the vaccine in New Milford are at 17,614, which equals 65.71%. Fully vaccinated are at 15,944, and that equals 59.48% of our population. So I'd like to thank Lisa and her team, our army of volunteers, New Vance Health, everyone involved in our clinic. Due to their hard work, as well as our commercial pharmacies now that are also doing these vaccines, you can see those numbers, and those numbers have greatly helped New Milford and our combating COVID-19. And speaking with Lisa, we're also gearing up and planning for a couple things. First, the availability of those 2 to 11 to be vaccinated. That may be sometime in the fall, and we're planning for that. Second also is there may be booster shots that may be required for those that have already been vaccinated. So we're looking at those opportunities and planning for them as well for the fall, which means the vaccination clinic will continue on. Currently, it's down to 1 day a week due to the fact that those that really have wanted to get vaccinated in these age groups and cohorts already have. So we're going to continue with those, I believe, right, Katie, 1 day a week? Wednesdays.
4 till 5:30.
4 to 5:30. And then when we ramp back up, which will be in the fall, we'll have the availability at Pettibone to do so. As we all could see with the weather, especially today, we were in the 90s. Heat index is projected for the next couple of days into the hundreds. So we have a cooling station open, and that is at Town Hall from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. in the Loretta Brickley Room for those under the senior age of 60 or lower. Those of senior age will be at the Senior Center, where they can cohort themselves and also partake in the wonderful new updated Senior Center we have. Also like to thank Fire Marshal Kevin Reynolds and our New Milford Police Chief, Chief Cerruto, is here this evening. Another matter is they did a public service announcement concerning fireworks safety. As we all know, fireworks are going to be happening Saturday, Sunday here in New Milford on the 3rd, the evening of the 3rd, weather permitting. We're going to have our own fireworks as a town, so we're very excited about that. The New Milford Carnival that normally happens will be starting on Thursday down at Young's Field. As far as our roads update, we continue to do our 4th year of our road work, and so far completed is West Street, Dorset, North Valley, Burnham. Drainage work completed, Dorset, North Valley, Vista, White Swan, Gregory, New Preston, Sawyer Hill. Drainage work still in somewhat of process. I believe it's mostly done. Jack, am I correct? Sawyer Hill? Yeah. Okay. Road reconstruction work in progress, Vista, White Swan Station, Gregory, and Woodridge. So we're very excited about these work getting done and completed. Chip sealing is Dawns Road, Heacock Lane, Mallets, Upper Mallets, Weantonot, White, Wildlife, skim paving, and that's going to be Connolly and Outlook. And giving a response to Councilman Lawson concerning Long Mountain Road. So Jack and I went up again on Friday and looked at that work. We are going to be remediating that. I did stop at Mrs. Custa's house. Yeah, she wasn't there. And that'll be taken care of and done. Hopefully, Jack, end of July, August, somewhere around there. Excellent. So that'll get taken care of. You got it. So that'll be done. As far as a library update, the contractor continues with the interior sheetrock work and HVAC and rough plumbing and electrical work, fire suppression, exterior sheathing, and conduit installation. So we're still on target for a 3rd week in January opening, and we're very excited about that. As far as our building inspector, Last week, we did 47 new permits, 61 inspections, 68 permits issued, and he continues to say we're seeing very strong new applications, which continues to move our town economy forward, so we're very excited about that. Park and Rec, here's a couple of things. First, Priority Landscaping, they're the ones that won the bid for Phase 4 of our Riverwalk. They continue to, they're removing undesirable trees, cutting brush and mulching all the materials. In the next week, depending on the weather, they'll be spreading the processed gravel. This is a 1.5 mile extension. For those that have been to Sega Meadows, you know how beautiful that is. It's be a great opportunity for people to enjoy it again with this Phase 4 of the Riverwalk. Priority Landscaping is also completing the brush removal of Clatter Valley near the cricket pitch, and that is going to allow for more availability for our New Milford cricket team. And they're also fundraising to, I guess, buy a shed up there for their cricket equipment. Also, the park maintainers have completed the installation of the swim team docks and swim lines. That'll be used for swim team and swim lessons. Also, and speaking with Dan Calhoun, we've had a tremendous uptick in requests for stickers for Deming Park. So it's great to see that we have a lot of our residents wanting to use that wonderful asset that we have here. I think it's the best beach on Kennewood Lake. Also, Dan wanted to let us know that we have a new vendor that's up there. That'll be, the name is El Taco, and they specialize in fresh-made American and Mexican dishes, and they're our vendor for Deming. And I've heard some wonderful things about them already. Also, in speaking with our team for Park and Rec, Laura Murphy, summer camp program and annual road race for the summer camp. Friday, I got to see all of the young counselors, and they're all excited, and they saw a great increase in their numbers. I'll get those numbers to you at our next council meeting. And then the road race, they're working on that. As you know, due to COVID, we didn't have it last year, but we're going to have it again this year, and they're very excited about that. Also, another thing, Dan wanted to let us know they're receiving numerous park reservation requests from residents this year versus the last couple of years. So we have pavilions, as we all know, not only in Deming, but in other parks. So that's exciting to see. Also, the maintainers, along with our DPW staff, will be attending a tick-borne disease prevention training on July 22nd. This is a mandatory training for all of those employees that work in the outdoors, and it's something that we all need to be cognizant of, especially with all of the numerous tick diseases that are out here, especially in Connecticut and in the woods. Fiero's Painting and Restoration has completed the windows replacement project on Clatter Valley Barn. Looks beautiful. And the maintainers are still continuing to do their garbage and litter cleanup downtown, and they do those on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Continue on with the Milford Police Department. Chief Cerruto's here if you have any questions to ask. I met with the chief today. They had a very successful coffee with a cop this past Sunday, and they had it up in Gaylordsville. So the chief was telling me it was very well received. Lots of people asking our police questions, which is great. Also want to thank the chief at Homeland Security Region Number 5, as the New Milford Police Department obtained a Polaris Ranger 1000, which is an ATV, and that will be used for search and rescue and public safety functions. So thank you, chief, for getting that with the help of our Homeland Security team. It's another great asset for the department. Chief also wanted to let me know that he's reviewing our crime statistics, and they're down again for this quarter. We'll have those numbers for you at the next meeting, but it's great to see, and thank you, chief, to you and your team for that continued success of lowering those numbers. Also, deaths with overdose are still at 0. So amazing work. Thank you, chief. Also, the next gen, which is the new operating system that we're putting in from dispatch to our patrol cars. The chief will be updating us at the end of the month, as the full implementation will be done by the end of the month. And this brings new efficiencies to our PD and also new safety. And I know the chief will talk about more of that at the end of the month. Our senior center last week, 83 services for 53 clients. Bus rides, 95 clients had 329 rides. 46 seniors are using the food pantry. And according to Jasmine, we're expanding the senior center capacity. We're going very slow steps, especially with the lunches. They just want to make sure people are feeling secure about it. And she believes they'll be at full capacity by the end of August or beginning of September. So that's all wonderful news.
Certainly is.
Thank you, Katie.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move to item number 6. I'll move to accept the following appointments, 6A and B. We have Commission on the Arts. Gail Alexander, he's an alternate filling a vacancy. Term of June 28th, 2021 to January 31st, 2024, along with Alessandro Piovazan. He's filling a vacancy also, and 6/28/2021 through January 31st, 2024. Inland Wetlands, the following: James Anderson and Irene Scribalo, their terms from June 28th, 2021 through January 31st, 2022, with Adrian Aricchio and Angela Dimmitt, with their terms June 28th, 2021 through January 31st, 2024. And finally, an appointment on the Local Emergency Planning Committee. Brian Bolero, Carl Fuchs, Wendy Fallenbach, and Dennis Larkin, all 4 for the term of June 28th, 2021 through January 31st, 2022.
Okay. Could we take inland wetlands name by name for a vote?
I did.
Individually.
Oh,
So
sure.
could you amend the motion to just
Yeah.
take out inland wetlands?
Yeah, okay, so move to accept item 6A and the Emergency Planning Committee.
Second.
Any discussion on this motion? Dave?
I really hope Wendy gets reelected. Otherwise, she'll be able to fulfill the.
And then for those in the audience, the Local Emergency Plan Committee, they have to have certain membership
Right.
within the committee. Okay, any other discussion on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Okay.
Move to accept the appointments on item 6B for inland wetlands aquifer protection. James Anderson, June 28th, 2021 through January 31st, 2022.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions?
Move to accept appointment of Adrian Aricchio, June 28th, 2021 through January 31st, 2024. Need a second?
Second. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed? I'm opposed.
Doug?
I voted aye.
Aye, okay. Motion
Okay.
carries.
All right.
So just Chris and Tom were opposed to
Yes.
it?
Yep.
Approve the, move to accept the appointment of Angela Dimmitt, June 28th, 2021 through January 31st, 2024.
Second.
Second. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions?
Move to accept the appointment of Irene Scribalo, I'm sorry if I mispronounce your name, Irene, June 28th, 2021 through January 31st, 2022.
Do I have a
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed?
Motion carries.
Okay. All right. Moving on to item number 7, move to accept a request from the Arts, the Commission of the Arts on closing the South Green crossover on August 7th and 14th, which would be along with the Art Walk on the 21st and the 28th for the Edwin Kincaid concerts on the Green. The closure would be from 5 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. for all of those events, and it is pending the traffic authorities'
And
approval.
according to Katie, that, thank you, Tom. According to
Correct.
Katie, that just was approved.
It was approved?
Yep.
Oh,
from
by traffic
Yep.
authority? Oh, I thought maybe I missed something you
Nope.
said. Okay. Scratch that last line. Okay, so I have a motion.
And a second. Any other
Second.
discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. It's going to be
Okay.
great to see those concerts again.
It is, and the art walk.
Yep.
Item number 8. I'm going to say discussion and possible action on the 2020-2021 Long-Range Riverfront Renewal Plan, and I believe we have a couple people here to talk to us about that.
Mayor Furman and Lisa Heda.
It's going to take us a second just to set up. We're going to be using the projector today.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Is it going on? It takes, here it comes.
I think you turn off.
Kill one of those lights.
Great.
Oh, now I can't read my notes.
Uh-oh. There you go, how's that?
Come on, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, I might fall asleep.
Well, I want to thank the town council for having the Riverfront Committee here tonight on your agenda. I am joined here tonight by Lisa Heda, who is the vice chairman of our committee. Others, I believe, are watching virtually through the Zoom connection. The catalyst for the Riverfront Committee plan really began back in 2016 when a large-scale natural gas power plant was proposed for town property at Century Brass. It was on the fringe of our beloved downtown and across from the Housatonic River. As New Milford citizens vocalized loud objections, the developer withdrew his interest. I remember meeting with then the former mayor and asking him to form a committee to plan not only for the future of Century Brass, but to the connected riverfront corridor so we as a community could determine our own destiny and take advantage of the riverfront and adjacent town-owned properties. Our committee began its work in 2017 when the town council appointed us. I want to share a quick quote with you, just recently made by Middletown's mayor, Ben Florsheim. 100 years from now, people will be standing on this beautiful riverfront, enjoying what has come before, and not really knowing or caring about the behind-the-scenes decisions. But it's exciting to think about what we're doing today, because it's going to pay off for generations to come. This important work was made possible by a $170,000 brownfield area-wide grant coming from the Department of Economic Development. The grant enabled the committee to retain the firm of WXY, there is no Z, Architecture and Urban Design, which is a nationally recognized master planning consultant with extensive expertise in riverfront revitalization. They work with both the committee and the community to create, collaborate, and refine our many ideas and aspirations into a cohesive vision. I would like to thank all the former and current members of the Riverfront Committee and to all of the community members and appointed and elected officials who attended and participated in our public workshops and presentations. Their support and your support is critical to realizing this vision. I want to thank our town staff, some of whom are here today, who shared their expertise and insights to the town council for its encouragement, and of course to Mayor Pete Bass for his foresight, his steadfast leadership, his encouragement for coming to more meetings than he'd like to say, and giving up so much of his valuable time to focus on this project. The Brownfield grant, as you can see, is really based on developing a comprehensive plan to remediate and redevelop neighborhoods that have multiple brownfields, such as our Riverfront, and to transform those brownfields into community assets using a comprehensive area-wide approach for reuse and redevelopment. As I said, there was a $170,000 state grant. The town matched it with $30,000 that they spent for the marketing analysis, which helped to form the basis of some of this plan and the plan of conservation and development. And we also raised $10,000 in private donations towards that marketing analysis. The Riverfront Committee, we were told by the town council, think big, be transformative, think out of the box, and we did. And so this is kind of a reminder of the vision that you gave us and the charter that we have adopted to create a dynamic 21st century riverfront integrated with New Milford's town center. This will catalyze community development, economic resiliency, sustainability, and revenue and job generation, all while protecting the Housatonic River and its ecosystem. This is a long-range plan for the future of New Milford. We were last here in front of the council on March 10th, and at that time we received comments and suggestions which have been incorporated into this plan. You talked to us about expanding the gateway, improving the visual of the gateway, incorporating into our plan. We are working to improve entranceways and to incorporate the buildings along Route 7, and we are making more walkable connections. COVID didn't stop us when it came on March 23rd, 2020. We kept working virtually. Our brownfield studies commenced. Brownfield studies were a requirement of the grant. We had to perform 3 phase 1s and 1 phase 2. So those studies began right as COVID began. We did do a final public presentation of the plan, which incorporated the town council's feedback on April 2020, and brownfield studies were still going on. In September 2020, the Riverfront Committee adopted the final plan. They sent it on for finalization, typo corrections, compilation, and to develop an implementation plan. This, as some have said, is a transformational plan. Some have said it's a game-changing plan. The plan begins with thematic goals that have actionable strategies. We want the riverfront to be sustainable. We want the riverfront to continue to be the recreation capital of New Milford, as I call it, with our playgrounds, our skateboard park, tennis, etc. We want it to be walkable and connected to the downtown. And we also want to feature arts and culture. We will use these goals and themes to leverage our riverfront brownfields, and then all of this will lead to economic vitality and town-wide revitalization. Now, one caveat before I begin this next slide. Nothing can or will happen on Youngsfield Road until provisions are made for new ball fields and for Public Works to be relocated. Those are kind of linchpin decisions that are going to have to be made. They are not new concepts. They've been talked about for years, and they are part of this blueprint for the future. So let's spend a little time here, and let me walk you through it. And I know it's hard to see on the screen, it's hard to see up there, but they started out with, with arts and culture. The beginning of the arts and culture is the outdoor amphitheater. My assistant's coming to help me right now, thank you. Why is it not pointing? Points on you. It was working, I just don't know where mine is. Oh, there we go, here we go. You should see me when I drive. Anyway, Chief Ceruto. Number 1 here is the amphitheater area. And that's where we will be holding concerts, we can be holding plays. We can be holding all kinds of events there. Number 2 is the 911 Memorial Lookout, because we will be redoing up in Patriots Way, so the 911 will get its own really place of honor in Youngs Field. Number 3 is the multi-purpose festival grounds, which are, here we go, right in this area. So this is where currently we have the 2 softball fields. Number 4 is hotel and event space, which would be up here where the current DPW is located, in that area, and it will be adjacent to the fields, the festival grounds, the amphitheater. There'll be a walkway connecting everybody right to downtown, and they will be parking at the facility for hotel and event space users. Next is the Native Meadows Sculpture Garden. So, as you know, this was property acquired by the town from the Northwest Conservation Service. Part of the plan is to have perhaps a sculpture walk through there and to create almost our own mini Central Park here in downtown New Milford. Now we come to the walkable connections. There's a path. Trying to see, I can make this bigger, good. There's an ADA path that will, but it makes it bigger for you too, sorry. There's an ADA path that tows the line up along the slope here, and it's also a ridge walk, and then there's an overlooking staircase that comes down into the park, and we have a pedestrian add-on to the southern part of Veterans Bridge here. That could be a pedestrian walkway and connects down, or it could be a continuation of the bike path. Currently, there's really no good way to get from the north side of the bridge to the south side that's safe. So we took that into to mind here. And also, well, I'll get to that number in a minute. We also have a pedestrian bridge that is somewhat pie in the sky, that hopefully, this is kind of at the end of our project. If we're able to find funding and support for it, it would be fabulous to have a pedestrian bridge going across the river to Native Meadows. It is not, we can do this plan without that bridge, just so that you understand that. But if perhaps some funder or some mechanism comes forward, it would be nice to be able to add that. Key here, and I'll talk about it again in a minute, is a realigned Youngs Field Road that, rather than coming out right before the bridge, comes up a little east of the bridge, which would allow us to put in a dedicated turning lane into Youngs Field Road, and then people coming east-west, going east, will be able to continue without backing up the traffic. And that's really important because, as you know, that leads to a lot of the backup that goes down in Route 7. Let's see what else. We have crosswalks, as I pointed out, and for recreation, in here it's an ice skating kind of rink path that will turn into a splash pad in the summertime. There's a sledding hill right here, so in the winter kids can go sledding. So we're trying to make Youngs Field a Four Seasons facility. There will be a concession stand and some shade down in here. And again, this is just a drawing. Nothing's set in stone that it's going to be that shape, so there's a lot of work still to be done. The playground is still here. The skate park is there. The tennis courts are here, and the basketball court. And as well as you know, the New Milford River Trail, which the town made a major investment in doing along Youngs Field Road. That will continue, and these yellow lines are the continuation of the bike trail as well, going down West Street. And of course, the kayak launch that's currently there will remain there and will become part of what we're going to be calling the Housatonic River Blue Trail. New Milford is blessed with having the river run north-south through the entire town, and we have multiple portages to go in and out. And I think it's something that we should really market and bring those kayakers to town to stop and have lunch and shop. From sustainability, we will be using erosion control plantings. There will be flood control plantings and flood control measures taking in. And I think that wraps up pretty much what's all on this plan. As you can see up here, come on, honey, where are you? Is it? There we go. Up in here, that's the crosswalk at the railroad station, and that goes up to Bank Street there. Next slide, please. So this is an artist's rendering of what this could look like in the winter. It's a rendering. It's not to scale. It's not to exact proportions, but it gives you a pretty good idea of what could be at Youngsfield Road. We were very careful, and the committee worked very, very hard to make sure that what we're showing in this picture is architecturally consistent with the town of New Milford, because that is key and important. So the plan consists of a number of different areas in terms of economic development, which we garnered from working with our economic development, or our marketing consultant, basically. And this was given to WXY, who incorporated it into their plan. And it includes a series of different areas. We have some, maybe at the end of the road here, we would have some maybe maker space or light industrial that maybe has retail components to it, like a furniture maker selling their furniture, things like that. We have townhouses, we have apartment buildings, the hotel and event space, which I spoke of before, the Riverfront Park, the Native Preserve. We have mixed-use buildings going in, proposed for over here, and even for over here. The consultant actually went into the downtown to look at areas where he could identify other development opportunities that would still stay with the character of the town. We have our gateway over here, mixed use, the old Southwest building, and the building kind of where Spring Street is in that area. This whole area can be revitalized as well and brought into the plan. We have some live workspace, we have public realm enhancements, like pocket gardens and and tree plantings, and of course in the inset, this is Century Brass, where we were looking at putting public works. And he does include the East Street School way at the end here. There's no use proposed for it, but basically to point out the fact that there really should be some linkages to the East Street School, because it will be a community resource of some sort, and also the buildings behind it, Glen Eyre and Butterbrook, could use some pedestrian connections to the downtown. So here we are with circulation and parking, which is always a big question for everyone. And as you see, we have this is a tricky one, a realignment of Youngsfield right here. So this part of Youngsfield stays the same, and it's really, you know, as we come up here, it starts to shift more to the east, and then to align up at the top and shows for east and west connections turns. We are talking about, Patriots Way will be accessed through where you can access it now off of Youngsfield Road. And we're talking about the potential, and everything's potential and possibility, over here. Come on. I'll have to buy myself a new one that I can aim better. Okay, right here, this is the top of Patriots Way. As you know right now, and Jack Healy, our Public Works Director, will vouch for this, he, Lisa Hida, myself, Mayor Bass, Diane Clay, if we stood out there at that corner doing traffic counts one day for the study, and we cringed when we watched how trucks would come out of Patriots Way and have to dive into traffic because there's really no sight lines, there's really no traffic stops to, guide them, and it's really an accident in the making. And really the only people who use it as a throughway are the trucks, because they can't get out any other way. They can't do the underpass, by where the old ambulance barn is. So we've talked about if, once Youngsfield Road is realigned, Patriots Way could be closed. You could come up this way and park, and then those two buildings, and then at the front there is parking, so you can enter in from Bridge Street to park there and still access downtown, access those buildings, access Youngsfield. Parking was a very big consideration in this whole plan. Let's see what else. So also, you can see that down by by Youngsfield itself, when Youngsfield enters, here we go, right here, that would be a parking area adjacent to the kayak launch, so people could park their cars with the kayaks near where they're kayaking, because right now it's really not convenient parking or getting back and forth. And all told, when WXY was finished with their analysis, they felt they would be able to add 75 new public access parking spaces. So that kind of addresses the parking problem. I'm going to ask Lisa to come up and take it from here.
See if the clicker's gonna work for me.
So this is the board, and that's
Perfect. All right. Good evening, everyone. Good to see you. So how do we make this all happen? How do we take a plan and make it reality and not just something that sits on the shelf for the next 20 years? Keeping the momentum and building on this will take diligence. So what did the committee do? So we kind of tried to chunk things up and keep moving, and we identified some short-term achievable wins. As you heard in the mayor's comments, the Riverwalk has now become a 1.5 mile loop from Town Hall down Bank Street to the crest of Youngsfield, all the way down to the river and back, a nice walking loop, and even with connectivity to Native Meadows. So Native Meadows, we have this vision of transforming it into a haven for residents and visitors with an accessible eco culture and just a haven for respite. Signed walking trail and clearly marked entrances. And you've seen some of that in Jack Healy's posts that are in progress, and thank you very much, Jack. Patriots Way, as Liba mentioned, offers another gateway into town. Many people don't see the entrance to that parking lot. It's an opportunity for some beautification, some widening, and really making it stand out. Some upgrades and improvements have already taken place. And last but not least, we've been successful continuing to get brownfield grants. In fact, just last week we got another $200,000 brownfield grant for an assessment as a first step for remediation and improvement for hidden treasures, right? Oh, we're excited about that. But that's not all. There's more that we're working on. So you might wonder what branding is doing here with the Riverfront Committee, but branding is really important, and we threw up an example that a resident came up with just as a thought starter. So branding in this context is about a tagline that's exciting and creates an emotional connection for people, and that can be leveraged. So how does that relate? Before we can do things like wayfinding and signage, we need some type of continuity and look and feel. So that's why branding is foundational and why we are taking that into consideration. Liba just mentioned the Youngsfield realignment. I won't go through that again. We're also working on something for weekenders and residents alike, the historic trail and an industrial trail. So think of a series of walks that talk about the history of New Milford and help make us a destination. We're working with key members of the Historical Society who have joined our committee as advisory members and have identified points of interest, and the narratives are being written as we speak so that we can then put them in publication on websites, in brochures, and let's all hold our breaths, maybe even a state-of-the-art phone app where the phone guides you around to the different way sites. So that's very exciting. And as Liba mentioned, also in the works is this Housatonic Blue Trail, a series of portages along the Housatonic, starting at Gaylordsville, key stop downtown at our kayak launch, and continuing on maybe all the way to Hidden Treasures or Lover's Leap. So another great reason for people to come and visit and enjoy our riverfront, as well as the residents get enjoyment out of it. Longer term, what also do we have on our list? We have developer outreach, sharing the town's vision with developers, getting their feedback. We all know COVID has kind of thrown economic plans up in the air, so we need to get some feedback on what they see as projects that would be new and exciting for them as well. But the Riverfront still has a role to play, as Liba mentioned, making sure the community character and charm is maintained. So there's going to be a balance. That's a key responsibility we have. We're going to keep identifying and looking for brownfield grants and potentially looking into land bank options. So this is a way of helping private property owners clean up their properties. This is a not-for-profit type of structure whose purpose is to encourage reuse and redevelopment. But we can't do it alone. It takes not a village, it takes a town. So town resources, again, like DPW and Parks and Rec and others, we all have to work together to create so many of the things that we're talking about. I'm not a slide reader, so I'll let you read that. Again, the first thing people are going to see when they come to town is a welcoming gateway. We put an example of a different type of kiosk for information. Think more along the lines of a large state park. It's more informational. It's not just a bulletin board, something that really tells people, here's all you have to do in New Milford, the surrounding area. And just increase the awareness of all that we have to offer on the new tourism website, which I believe is due to launch in August. That's very exciting. So from talk to reality, I don't know if you had a chance to look at the first and second diagrams in particular, but you'll see these little illustrations of public enhancements, pocket gardens. So things that make people stop, enjoy, and spend time, maybe some hot spots out there as well. When they do that, they're more likely then to take that next step, buy a cup of coffee, stay for lunch, maybe do a little bit of shopping. So from an economic standpoint, those little pocket gardens and public enhancements are really important. So you just heard, and I think we're going to hear a little bit more in a moment from Mayor Bass about some other projects that are kind of foundational and are like key pieces to the puzzle that have to go into place in a certain order, freeing up space to create this vibrant riverfront, creating a state-of-the-art sports complex so that the ball fields might be moved, and relocating DPW so that we could potentially realize boutique hotel and event space. So we have all the pieces, and the committee is dedicated to keeping that plan off the shelf and in process. So how do we do this? Well, we need everybody working first and foremost towards the same vision and making sure all the different stakeholder organizations are going together to that vision and not working at cross purposes. So here's what we see as the Riverfront Committee's role. I'm not going to read that to you. Just give you a minute. And from the ordinance that created the permanent Riverfront Revitalization Committee, here's a couple of snippets. Develop and recommend to the town comprehensive strategies as may be deemed appropriate for the Riverfront District in coordination with town agencies and the Corporation for New Milford Economic Development, implement the town-adopted Riverfront Renewal Master Plan. So this is what we see as the committee's continuing role. And then there's the role of the Economic Development Corporation, right? So implement development on behalf of the town, apply for grants for the cleanup that we've identified, and if possible, work with land banks to help remediate the private contaminated properties. The town has a role to play as well. Whatever that final structure may be for the Economic Development Department, here are the types of functions that they would play in a riverfront development. I'm not going to read this to you. And you have a very important role. Nothing can happen without you, the town council. You have the power of approval and implementation. We can only make the recommendations. And saving the most important for last, town residents. Because we are talking about town properties, they have the ultimate input in the form of our beloved town meeting. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Leah. Finish up. Thank you, Lisa.
So there have been many other long-range planning efforts going on throughout the state of Connecticut, and I'm just pointing out 4 of them. The closest to us is the Brookfield Town Center, and as you know, they've been talking about building a town center. They weren't as fortunate as New Milford to have our wonderful green and, our architectural assets and our local downtown merchants and restaurants, so they had to go out and build one from scratch. And so they have been working on it. They started before 2000, but they started working in 2012. They actually drafted their first long-range plan for the center, and they're continuing to work. What I'm trying to point out here is that it takes time to make things happen. It takes time to plan, to build consensus. It takes time to get funding from the state. A lot of what's been done in Brookfield, from their Greenway Walkway to the Brookfield Center sidewalk improvement programs to other incentives, those have come with the help of the state of Connecticut. And so we're beginning to build connections with the state DECD. They have been very supportive of the grants that we've submitted so far, and we anticipate that they'll continue to build on their investment here in New Milford. The Meriden Green is fantastic. I actually went there a couple of years ago to see it. It was it was an open tour by the Connecticut Landscape Architects Association, and I was fortunate enough to be guided by the town's economic development director, who kind of gave me some insight. This is also a plan that has been in the making. This was a floodplain, this was a dump, this was garbage, this was industrial hazardous waste, this was silver plating plants that left all their toxic chemicals in the water. And again, with the help of the state, because without the state's money, a lot of this doesn't happen, this is what it is today. And it's vibrant and it's growing. And I learned a secret there that we should incorporate into any plan that we do. Whoever develops on part of this property has to put some of their money towards the maintenance of the property. And as you know, that's going to be a long-term commitment also, is to not only build our downtown riverfront, but to maintain it. And so, that's just something I thought was really interesting to know. Middletown started, and we had the town, a city planner from Middletown come to one of our very first Riverfront committee meetings because we wanted to learn what other towns were doing. They started in 1986, and then they did the report, and they put it on the shelf. And then they did another few things, and it went on the shelf. In 2000, they kind of dusted everything off and started again. And they have been doing a lot of work. They actually moved their sewer plant off the waterfront. That was millions of dollars to do. But they did it because they knew they couldn't have a true riverfront revitalization with a sewer plant in the middle of it. And they're continuing to move on. Riverfront recapture is the Connecticut River in Hartford, and that's been going on since 1981. I mean, it really has come forward now. They're still doing new projects there. It continues to expand. But again, the point is 2000 to the present, 2007 to the present, 1981 to the present. This is a long-term plan. And so while some people say, why is this taking us 5 years to come to the town council today with this plan? It takes a lot of planning, and as Lisa says, it takes a town. So we are here today to ask for your support and your leadership. We are asking you to adopt this long-range riverfront renewal plan and provide the needed resources over the coming years, for which you will receive justification for the request. There will not be any, we just want your money and give it to us. You will know how every cent will be spent and on what it will be spent. And we want to keep the momentum going. So once again, I want to thank the town council for your support over these past 5 years, and I hope to be working with you for the next 15 or 20 years until we've completed our riverfront renewal plan. Thank you. And Lisa and I are available for any questions if you have any.
Any questions for Chris?
Couple. I'm not familiar with land banks. Can you just give me a rough overview?
Sure. Land banks are private nonprofit corporations that will purchase properties that are contaminated, and they will then assume the liability. See, one of the problems is the town, when we got the Hidden Treasures grant, that was town-owned property. So and it was contaminated before the town owned it, so we have no liability for what's in there. But if we were to buy a piece of property, let's just throw out, there's a piece of property right next to Public Works where those oil tanks and the gas pumps are, and it's privately owned. We cannot go in and remediate it without assuming liability. So a Connecticut land bank could go in, make an agreement with the property owner. They can apply for grants, and then they can clean the property up, and then they can do the transition to town-owned property.
That way, Chris, we don't have another Century Morass.
Yeah, yeah, we don't want another one of those.
No, absolutely not, no.
Is that what we're thinking about on the properties on the south side of Veterans Bridge?
Potentially.
It could be, yeah.
Okay. Thank you for your work. It's really good stuff.
Thank you. And thank you for coming to some of our meetings. You were there.
You serve food.
Dave?
Just a comment. We have 3 mayors in this room this evening. First time I've ever noticed that.
Oh, it's happened before. We've all been in the same room before.
But it's nice to see former mayors actively engaged in the town's interests as well. And that's really very much appreciated.
Thank you. You know, David, 30 years ago, probably this month or right around this time, I brought forward a plan for the downtown, and Pete will remember this as a downtown merchant. Downtown was tarred streets, cracking, falling apart, light poles everywhere you looked, and I brought forward a vision plan. The next administration completed the plan, but I started with the vision.
Yeah, right, straight.
And this vision for New Milford and what it can be and what it is has always been with me, and it's my passion. And I'm just so honored that Mayor Bass, shares that same passion and is helping, hopefully, to make this a reality.
Any other questions for Mayor?
I have a question.
Katie?
Do you have any approximation of the price for the supply needed resources over the coming years?
No, I mean, we're gonna chunk this out into pieces and then come in. The biggest pieces, obviously, are going to be the Public Works movement and the ball field.
Right, which have been talked about, that's been talked about several years easily. And no one has any idea what that might cost? No?
No, I mean, I don't know if the mayor has any
Okay.
idea or
Okay.
if.
So- in
Actually,
your-
Katie, after this,
Well, I thought you might.
we're gonna bring
have
Jack
something
up, and
to
we're gonna
say.
talk
Right.
about DPW move.
Good,
And also Doug and I, we're gonna talk a little bit about the ball fields
good.
that have been bantered about
How
for.
propitious that those are on the list.
Absolutely.
I guess, I just to define a little bit for what you're asking of us, it's a wonderful plan, and you've definitely thought outside the box, and I think high aspirations are perfect. Keep them up. But the supplying of needed resources over the years and the fact that we would know exactly where every penny was going, well, that's pretty much true when we do give out money, that we do know where it's supposed to go anyway. So you're just saying you would like our endorsement of your overall plan, and you would come to the council at some point, but you won't discontinue your grant seeking and all the other things you have
Absolutely not.
done.
Grant seeking is key. Private dollars are going to be key.
So we don't, we're not looking at foisting on taxpayers for some long amount of time that it would be all from them. I mean, you need to have buy-in, it's our town, so we, as our, should be involved in all ways, but you would continue to do that.
Yes,
That's good, thank you.
thank you.
Any other questions? Doug?
I just have a comment. I want to thank both of you ladies for an excellent presentation. It was great. And I've always, along with the ball fields over at the high school, have a premonition about the future of this town. And that's a jewel down there in that area that we're discussing. And I've had several conversations with the mayor about moving certain things in ball fields and using that as an amphitheater. I think it'd be a great venue not only just for the music and stuff, but to bring more people into the town. So I commend you on the work you've done. It's been excellent, and I look forward to even helping and joining you sometime. So thank you both.
Thank you, Doug. Thank you.
Dave?
I just wanted to make a motion.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt the 2021 long-range Riverfront renewal plan as presented this evening.
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Great job,
Thank
ladies.
you so much.
If we could just stay on this topic for just a moment. So as Mayor Furman and former Councilwoman Ahita had talked about, is really two major key components is the moving of DPW to Century Brass. It's been talked about for quite some time under Mayor Murphy. And then also the ball fields. So first, if I could ask Jack to come up for a moment. Katie, could you pass these out to councilmen? And so what you'll see here is just a rough sketch, as I had asked Jack. We've been, during COVID, we've been looking at opportunities to move DPW, and how we're looking at it also is, what can we do to mitigate the cost? What are some of the options we could do? One of the thought processes is to put on the excess land that Jack and his team may not need, is to put solar and harness the revenue from that to help pay for the bond. Also, another opportunity is to look at using the electric grid, hydro grid with First Light to reduce our energy costs, to allow maybe another opportunity to come in to the Century Brass area. All looking at ways to keep, as Mayor Furman and former Councilwoman Hita had said, keep the character of our town, but also look at ways of maximizing our return on investment to bring DPW down. And kind of as a connotation to our councilmen who are here and to the public, I invite you to go down and look at Jack's facility right now. It's sorely not where we need to be. We've invested now millions of dollars in new machinery. And when you drive by there, as I do, my stomach hurts because I see it outside in the rain. And I'm like, taxpayer money, new machineries, sitting out in the rain because we don't have the room. Also, when I talk to the DPW drivers, they're like, Pete, I can't move my truck with my plow into the bay because it's too small. So these are all things when we're looking at reinvesting in our town, our infrastructure reinvestment. We're looking to put these in, and with taxpayer help, with the council and Board of Finance's help, we need to maximize that. So I'd ask Jack, how can we move it over there? What do we need? What does it look like? What's your vision with all of his experience of what a proper DPW plant would look like? So Jack kind of came up with a sketch. So Jack, if you could
and this is a
talk to the
sketch.
council.
I don't have AutoCAD skills. That was after my time at school. So, and I think recently Chris Cosgrove came down to my office and he told me I had a very nice office, very nice view, but I didn't deserve it anymore. We're going to move me out of there.
I was a little nicer about it than that, Jack. But that was a message.
Hey, anyway, this is just, and I talked, Mayor Bass and I meet, we meet every Friday, and we talk about this probably about every Friday, and different concepts, and how can we do this, how can we afford to do this. This is, and as we talked last week, I said to the mayor, this is just space. And understand, this is to scale. Unfortunately, your scale is small, so it's not 1 inch equals 100 feet or anything, but this is to scale. So if you look at buildings like 1 and 2 there, that's a 40,000 square foot building. And we have done some research. Mike Boucher's not here tonight, but Mike and I have actually gone out and looked at some other public works facilities to see what is out there. And we actually went up to Chris's neck of the woods in Upper New York State, looked at a couple up there, one called Chilai. I thought it was Chile, it was Chilai. Another one, which is right, is a Rondaquet, and it's near Rochester, I believe. And I'm not going to take the approach they did in Rondaquet. They actually burned theirs down accidentally, so then they got a brand new facility. We're not doing that, but we looked at what they had, and it changed our focus to, we came up with the idea, or they have the idea, and we're trying to copy it, of having one large building where all your equipment goes into it. It's all under one roof. And you have mechanics bays. I actually helped design one in Harwington. The floors are heated. You know, you use radiant heating, that way the trucks drive as they come in, people are working on them. We're setting it up so that people would want to maintain their equipment. I can't, my work in private industry with Ingersoll Rand was, we preached maintenance, maintenance, maintenance. You don't wait till something breaks, you keep it going. And that's one of the things was we build this, so I've talked to the mayor, we want to have this facility, so it's a facility that we're there to maintain things and look at the long range, be proactive, not reactive to things. So if you look at this, again, this is purely conceptual. You'll see on the legend, that gives you a number, that gives you what's in that building or that block of space. These can be moved around. The one thing we did try to do is, if you look where it's green, that is, there's a lot of space where Eversource has easements. And so we're trying to use that space on things that we can put, like the pipe yard, the sand piles, and things like that. We looked at the actual sale documents. It allows us, even though they have an easement, we have in the right of way, we have the right to use the space under there, as long as we don't build a building. So all that area at the end of Patriots Way and on the corner of Housatonic, Youngsfield, that can be under those lines, and we can utilize that space. The idea is we're trying to keep the area, what I call number 14, free. That could be solar panels. I mean, you're going to hear from Doreen a little bit about an ESG project we're talking about for the town. She's been helping us determine how much solar can we generate from that area. I know we've talked about in some of our meetings whether or not we can have space, we could build a couple buildings for renting or leasing, or the town could get some income from. So number 12, we also put in there a possibility for the helicopter helipad. We moved the recycling facility over there. We are actually going to 2 salt sheds instead of 1, so we do a better job of managing and maintaining our materials.
And Jack, not to interrupt you, I'm sorry if I do, but that we'll be talking about a little bit later, but the salt sheds.
Yeah.
One of the things when I was talking to Mike Boucher in our weekly meetings, when you drive by, you see the one big shed, right? And that keeps salt in. But we actually have another salt, for today's conversation, salt storage area, which to the town council is right now underneath a tarp. So why does that matter? So during the winter time, right, I was talking to Mike, when we're looking at efficiencies of how we use our manpower in the most efficient way. Right now during the winter, they have to go, when it's snowing, right, Jack, or right
Yep.
before, reopen the tarp, dig out the material that could be frozen or wet, and put it back in. It's a complete waste of ability, as we're all looking to do that. And later on in tonight's meeting, I'll talk a little bit more about that. But since you kind of brought that up there, I just wanted to give the edification to our town council.
And those salt sheds are actually relatively inexpensive to purchase and put up and maintain. So you'll see that there's 4 of them here. Well, some of the equipment doesn't need to be housed in a warm area, so we're also talking about buying a couple of those where we can have cold storage. We could put like a grater in the wintertime or the pothole machine. We can put that type of equipment in there. You buy it, they come with ends. You put them in there, you store them. It's cold storage, so we're not heating areas that we don't need to. So it's going to be a combination. Anyway, these are things that we've come up with. I know the mayor asked me when I looked at the presentation that Mayor Furman put together, and asked, does that fit in with your thought process? It does. I've been lucky enough to work with them on a few of these things, and their schedule and our schedule seem to be meshing very well.
And another thing too, which is good news in speaking with the chief concerning the potential move, especially for the helipad and helicopter, is we may have a benefactor that may be helping us with the full cost of the helipad. So that's something we're exploring as well. I also know Jack has talked to Mr. Hita as well concerning having a trail that will go the circumference of Century Brass,
Yep.
thus allowing the more connectivity. And we're also looking Youngsfield to put sidewalks into Youngsfield that connect the Riverfront piece all the way to Century Brass.
Yep, we've
with
looked
the
at
help
that.
of DPW.
Yeah, we've looked at that, just as we did Patriots Way. The mayor and I have talked that that was our first foray into having our staff actually pave sidewalks, which is different than doing roads. We actually rented the equipment. I think they did a very good job myself. I may be a little biased, but I think they did a good job. and as I told the mayor, being able to acquire those skills and having our guys be able to do that, now that opens up some opportunities. And I know the mayor and I have talked about connecting Patriots Way and the Riverwalk, coming right down Young Steel Road to Housatonic Avenue, improving those sidewalks. We're not impacting anybody's property, just improving the sidewalks, taking it down to the Aspetuck Ridge intersection, going over the tracks and coming in on Scoville Street. And then I did talk to Mr. Hita last week, and I told him stop down anytime, and we're going to go and we're going to walk it. I know I've talked to Councilman Esposito also about between the solar panels, a bumblebee. Actually, it's a bee farm. We plant wildflowers in there, and it helps the bees in the area. So if you have people who are farming honey, they actually have like a 15-acre honey farm there. So these are things we're trying to incorporate to bring in the environment, make it greener, and then have a, as I like to call it, proactive future DPW facility.
And so I know we're going to be refining this as we move forward, but I just wanted the council and the public at large to know that we've been looking at this, looking to plan for this in tandem with the Riverfront Committee and moving Century Brass, DPW Century Brass for their much-needed larger facility. So we'll be continuing to update you guys, but I just wanted Jack to give you guys a heads up where we're at so far.
Thanks, Jack.
Thank you, Jack.
Can I just,
Chris,
question?
absolutely.
So and I, concur about your facilities there. 3 or 4 years ago, I was on a facilities utilization committee where we audited every town-owned building. And that's just antiquated. It just doesn't do, it's among the most expensive real estate we have in town, and the facilities don't do the job. So moving that just makes a ton of sense. But just to give the public a picture, we heard heated floors, but we're not going to have beach chairs out. I mean, it's basically it's a metal building.
Yes,
right?
it is.
It's not some big palace.
No, it's a sheet metal. I call them Butler building. We're going to make it attractive. I think one of the things we want to make sure is that building is going to be facing, Housatonic Avenue. So you're going to see it. We don't want to be, so it's ugly.
It's not going to be an eyesore.
It's not going to be an eyesore. It's going to be but in today's world, we can design very nice. If anybody wants, I can send them the pictures that we have of our Rondequoit. It's a nice bright blue building, really nice. You walk inside, it's state of the art. I mean, you go into offices, and and every office, in there we can control. We have controls on the trucks. We have controls on the offices. We can and again, we're going to talk a little bit about ESG. We can control the electrical consumption in the town. It's a state of the art facility. It's where Public Works is going down the road. And I think one of the things that the mayor and I talk about also is we want to make sure that we have the capacity of this building to be able to do more things for the town. We're putting together, or we actually implemented a vehicle policy. We're extending the life of our vehicles. We're reusing vehicles so that we're not, after the police department's done with them, we're repurposing them, fixing what we need to do, and then we're repurposing them to other departments because, they use them because they have intensive hours and distance. A lot of our departments don't need it. We may go 5,000 miles a year, so a car like that can last another 5 years. So we're working with the mayor also to implement, a maintenance program like that.
Thanks, Jack.
Any other questions for
Well,
Tom?
Thank you, Jack. Great discussion on here. I know we've been talking about this for a long time. The first tour I got when I was elected 12 years ago was of DPW. And I think I was absolutely flabbergasted when I walked in and I saw guys like squeezing through to get to their truck. And I saw one guy pinned between the wall and the truck trying to fix a set of brakes. And it was probably one of the thing that really put the bell off of my head is that this is a very inefficient facility, very difficult for people to maintain. And as you said earlier, this is a maintenance operation. You're maintaining the town, you need to maintain the vehicles and equipment that maintain the town. And these folks have been having a very difficult time for as long as that building has been there. And this is well overdue. And I think this is the linchpin to help Riverfront. We get the industrial look at it downtown, and we can revitalize. And I'm fully supporting all of this. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, Jack.
Thanks.
Thanks, Jack.
Second is Mayor Furman and Councilwoman Heath had talked about too, is what else needs to happen for this to happen? What's this second linchpin? And that is Young Field. And we know that's heavily used. That's heavily used by our softball teams for their adult softball leagues, for the Pop Warner teams, if they, in the fall for the lights, and if they make it further, and then extra uses, right? That we use every day. So I know when Doug and I were on the turf field committee, one of the things we heard from the youth groups was, well, what about youth fields? So I know one of the things Mr. Pilla, former Mayor Murphy, had talked about was moving it to a sports complex. What would that look like? We kind of did an assessment of all the fields that we currently have. So we have ball fields at Northville School, and we can't use them. Why? Because they flood. That cost probably $200,000-300,000 to just fix them like that. You're looking at ball fields that were at Garrett Farms that a few years ago, like 8 or 9 years ago, because they were growing, those ball teams were looking to get kicked out. So we were looking at how do we do this? What does it look like? So I've been in contact with Kimberly Clark, as they have been interested for years of us obtaining the good portion of their property on Route 7 across the street from M&O, not the part where you have the mulch
Right.
piece, right, Randy?
Yeah.
But just the good piece. And so what I would like to recommend to the town council is that we explore.
Which parcel is this?
So if you go past the cottages there.
Okay, yeah,
Has
yeah.
all that,
On the left,
yeah. So I believe it, Randy, if I'm correct, it's like 80 acres, right?
It's large.
Yeah.
It's like 70, 80 acres.
Part of that goes,
And could we have connectivity with the bridge in the park, or is that too far
I
north?
think it's too far north, but that's something we could look at.
Boardman's right there.
But the goal, yeah, but Boardman is there, maybe.
Yeah, the
We do
bridge,
that on
Boardman
that side.
Bridge.
Oh, that bridge, I think you're talking about veterans.
Yeah, no.
So maybe
Boardman
we
Bridge
have-
And, was it Hallmarks Park? It's right there?
yes.
That's a little
No,
fur-
No,
that's
Helen
No,
Morris
that's
is
further
all the way
down.
on the other side. You're thinking of Sega Meadows,
Sega
maybe?
Meadows.
No, the picnic area, right there.
Oh, right
There,
there
where
on
you
the,
can't park or
Okay, I
anything,
got
but
you.
there is a
Yeah, I
picnic
don't,
table
yeah,
there.
I don't know what you call it.
So the goal would be to explore the purchase of the Kimberly Clark property, and there we would put our sports complex, which would be having multi-use fields, plus baseball fields, plus walking paths, and what that would do is set us on course to A, do our revitalization and remediation of the downtown, but also put us in competition with other towns that have these fields, like Newtown, like Monroe, like
So we could have
Brookfield.
regional meets.
So
that
we can have
would come
regional
here.
meets,
Right.
absolutely. And as people are looking to move into different areas, especially those that have kids, we need to be able to have the same amenities that they have to attract that type of resident that we want here in New Milford. So I'd like the town council support to allow us to at least explore that opportunity, if that's okay with the council.
Mayor, didn't we once upon a time have a person, I can't remember their name, they came and showed us some various ideas for some grandiose, though they were.
That was a private, yeah.
You
private-
remember that?
Yeah, that was SFA,
Yes,
and they
that's
were
it.
looking at the Century Brass piece when we were
That's
looking
right.
at it.
But their point was, which I thought was one of their major points, was that you bring people, the sports, youth sports, of course, and people drive hours to go for these games, and once you have a facility like that, people will come.
One of the earlier years when I first got elected and moved back to town was I saw Monroe's Wolf Park. And what was nice about it was the 10-year-olds were playing football here.
That's right.
The 12-year-olds were
Right.
playing here. The 16-year-olds were playing here, and the parents were standing in the middle.
Right.
The biggest complaint I got when I first ran was both parents don't see each other all weekend. One parent's on one side of the field with this group of kids, and the parents on the other side. And it was a conversation that I've had with the mayor when we were town councilmen together and the rest of the council people, that we need to bring folks together. It's a shame that people can't spend their weekends with their family watching both their kids play sports. And this has been a desire, I think, of this community for a very long time. We have wonderful facilities, but they just happen to be all over the
Spread out.
largest town in the state of Connecticut.
Right.
So it makes it much more difficult for people to enjoy all of them. the same time.
Well, Mayor, I think that's a good idea.
Great idea.
Okay.
And just
Take-
Doug?
want to add, Pete, as well, is that along with the high school fields that we mentioned with the turf, is that the youth groups were able to play there now, because there was only 2 fields there, and because of the overuse of play, and because it was grass, it couldn't be used by any youth organization, or even the freshman teams. And so, Pete had mentioned the youth football, because they don't have lights over at Bowles Field, they would have to come down to Young's Field. Well, they no longer have to do that, because now they can use the high school fields, and they actually play games and tournaments there. And also, if a lot of people don't know, we have a semi-pro team that now plays at the high school, so there's more revenue coming in and bringing in people. And so on top of that is that the youth programs, we don't own the fields. So we're at the mercy of the owners of these fields. There might be a 99-year lease, but it's contingent every year to be reviewed. They almost lost 2 fields, as Pete had mentioned, at the baseball, because Garrick was going to absorb the pieces of land to use to make more product. So Pete and I have been talking about this, obviously with the project at the turf field, but to get the one-stop shop, like Tom said, you have the adults playing, you have the kids playing, they're all in one area, and they're feeding off of each other. And so, like New Fairfield and Brookfield and stuff, they put everything in one. So I think it's a long overdue. We have the resources, we have the property, and I think moving forward, and obviously I'll be here on board to help with any committee. So,
Awesome.
Thank you, Pete.
Thank you. Chris?
Mayor, yeah, I'm very supportive of it, and for many of the reasons you mentioned, Doug. We need to have our own fields, and so our kids aren't at risk. But at the same time, we're talking about acquiring more land, and the previous committee I mentioned, the Facilities Utilization Committee, we looked, and the town already has a surplus of buildings. So, and it's unrelated, but at the same time, it's not. If you look at the big picture, as probably a lot of our taxpayers might, we just want to be cognizant of, at some point, we've got to rationalize our buildings. It is part of this whole plan. So I just want to make sure we keep an eye on that.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chris. Any other comments? Nope. All right. Thanks, everybody.
I'm ready to
Next.
play ball right now.
Let's go.
Land donation would be
Okay.
really nice.
Wouldn't it? All right, let's get that
Just
next
saying.
meeting. What do you
You
say,
never know.
Dave? Okay, so we'll move forward to item number 9. I'd like to move that we approve the revision to the youth agency ordinance, so we'll conform with the statutory grant.
So,
Which you know.
second.
And I'm passing over the letter from our youth agency director, Jason O'Connor. This kind of gives us a reasoning why we're actually, and Randy's here as well, why we're actually looking at this ordinance. And that's to actually satisfy the requirements for
DCF.
for DCF and what is it, the Youth Services Bureau. This allows us to get the proper grants. So Randy, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about it, but this puts us in compliance to this.
This is going to be really boring. This ordinance, this revision is in order to bring into conformity the requirements under the Code of Federal Regulation, not the Code of Federal Regulation, the regulations of state agencies concerning children and youth services. The grant requirements mandate that a youth services bureau or a youth agency contain a youth services bureau. What I did in order not to run afoul of the charter, I created a youth services bureau as an affiliate of the youth agency. It's within the youth agency. It does not usurp the agency, but it's part and parcel of it. We still have 5 members, general members of the youth agency, but we have a minimum of 7 to the board, to the Youth Services Advisory Board. Of those 7 minimum members, and I would probably suggest you might want to have some more because it's a good issue. There are certain categories that have to be satisfied: police, schooling, things of that nature. That's outlined and expressly stated in the ordinance for a reason.
The reason we stated that, we parroted what is in the statute, so as to, if there's ever a review on a grant application, it's in here. There's no question about it. And thus it becomes mandatory. You can appoint more than 7 members, but of those members that you do appoint to the AB, the advisory board, 5 of them have to fill these slots. What I also did is I added some language, statutory language, to the ordinance at large. The reason for that is because if you take a look at the legislative history of this, the agency, the Youth Service Bureau, is supposed to be a ramrod, if you will, for town programs and things of that nature. So what I did is I added some statutory language to section 2-105B to the youth agency in general, stating the agency shall work to coordinate community services, that's statutory language, and develop and make recommendations concerning providing and delivering those services. So they don't just come up with ideas, they come up with recommendations as to how to best deliver them. Hence, you have somebody on this youth advisory board that is a consumer of the youth services. So that's where the kind of rubber meets the road. So that's how it's been revised. It's my opinion that it conforms to the statutory and the regulatory scheme, and that we do not run afoul of the granting requirements. And that's the reason for the revision.
Any questions for Randy? So we have a motion and a second on the floor. All those in favor? Oh, sorry, Dave.
Not a question. I was just a little concerned. I can't find that right now, but it's either was last written in 1987.
Apparently so.
Okay, that's concerning.
It's very concerning.
That's no. I mean, with all our ordinances, I think we should have a regular review so that we don't get caught like this.
The mayor has asked me, she just asked that question. The mayor has asked me to take a look at our ordinances.
Yeah.
And do a repealed ordinance review.
This was 1987. I think that's
Just for that
34
purpose.
years.
If you notice in this ordinance, what I did is I took out Board of Selectmen, took
Right,
out.
that's why I
Yeah.
was a little bit concerned,
Taken
shall we
aback?
say. Concerned. But yeah, I think that we should be constantly reviewing
Absolutely.
every 5 years. I mean, the state statutes alone to keep up with those. Believe me, I know policies and how they keep up with them. And okay, so we will be reviewing them?
Absolutely. So I'd ask Randy to take a look, see what he sees as far as reviewing, which ones are kind of out of date.
So you guys must
Bring
have
to
had
the
lunch.
council.
You must have.
Yeah.
Breakfast.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thanks, Randy.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you.
Okay, item number 10. Make a move that we approve the inclusion of the 41-mile stretch of the Housatonic River from the Massachusetts-Connecticut border to the north of Boardman Bridge into New Milford, Connecticut, south and to the south, and in the wild, and so that we're included in the Wild and Scenic Rivers Act of 1968 by an act of Congress as a partnership river.
We have Mayor Gambino here.
We need a
Second.
second. Thank you, Dave.
Mayor, would you like to talk a little bit about it?
Thank you, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
I brought with me Mark Andriano. He's a commissioner as well. We go up to Cornwall once a month, rain or snow, and do our job. And what we're looking for here is your support for this initiative, which basically, I think the letter that you received in your packet explains it clearly, but maybe not enough. And we have a document we need signed that shows your support so that we can get this to the congressional level and get the wild and scenic designation from the Boardman Bridge all the way to the Massachusetts border. If you have any questions about what we do, these 7 towns, we'd be glad to try to answer them. And Mark is here as well. And I know you've got a long agenda yet tonight, so I'll let you do what you have to do.
Any questions for Mayor Gambino? Or Mark?
I-
Katie?
Bob, wasn't this brought up a few years ago to us? I might have even been Leba who brought it forward at some point, that this stretch of river was, I think, probably moving south or moving north to include this part of our river. And so I often thought about this because of the old Boardman Bridge. What is the culpability for anything happening to the river in our section of it?
I don't understand your question.
What's our responsibility for, it's going to become a wild and scenic part of that act, the Wild and Scenic Rivers Act. So does that change our responsibility for anything that should occur? I mean, prior to GE, I don't think anybody ever thought of it, but just in case. So what would our responsibility be any different, I guess is really the question, than it is now if we become part of this, because it becomes a wild and scenic part of that act?
Okay, well, the end result, right now, we were trying to go through the state route, but we're going through the congressional route because this is the big difference. We can get federal funding. Right now, all we get is your dues that we pay to Northwest COG just to keep us rolling.
Right.
We have no teeth as an organization, as you know that Canada Lake Authority or even Lake Winona have. But what you're going to see here is that local control remains the same. The Zoning Commission and Wetlands Commission do the same things they've always done. Everything goes through your processes. We have a local management through an addition of a coordinating committee to our 2-member from every town organization. They include a member from National Park Service, the DEEP, HVA, First Light, and Northwest COG. So the coordinating committee is advisory to us, and then we have problems, we have to deal with it town by town by town. There's no federal land acquisition going to go on. There never was, there never will be. And any federally funded permitted projects are going to be reviewed federally, and of course you will know about that. I think one of the interesting things about this, it would allow us to do a little better job of, I don't want to use the word policing, but that's really the key word. But we're getting pressure on the river and the use of the river. Used to only be fishermen and kayakers, canoers, tubers. Now we're getting a lot of swimmers and recreation and picnickers and all the accesses up and down the river from the Boardman Bridge. And it's the old Boardman Bridge, but I believe it's on the upwater side. That's what I was told. So that you do, I think the question once came up, are you in charge, our committee in charge of the old Boardman's Bridge? And I believe no. It's from the old upriver side all the way to Massachusetts. So you're going to see us trying to use some money that we get federally to take a handle on what the DEEP can hardly do, what HVA doesn't want to commit to do, what the Northwest COG doesn't have a budget for, who else? National Park Service, not going to do it. So it's going to end up in our hands to make sure that we make that a very nice recreational spot.
Okay,
I don't know
with
whether
a
you
great
want to
great
add anything
opportunity in
to
speaking
what I
with
said to
Mayor
her question.
Gambino. I thought it was a great opportunity was when he talked about the ability, maybe through some federal financing, to get some more boots on the ground when it comes to really being able to watch our riverbeds and to watch our streams and our shoulders. As Chief Ceruto can tell you, as we continue to monitor them, there's a lot of people who like to throw garbage in the river, on the river courses outside the river. We also have some non-residents that don't understand the currents that try to go in there, and we've had some unfortunate incidents because of that. So there's an opportunity with this to be able to get some funding to help us with that. I thought it was like a win-win for sure.
Definitely.
And the HBA has been very instrumental in providing interns this summer that will go to the parks and the spots and talk to people, find out where they're from, what, you know, what they're doing, how they like it, and trying to get them to know that garbage in, garbage out, if you follow me, and trying to keep your places clean. New Milford's not the only town. You know that Kent has problems. Salisbury does. Cornwall has been pretty fair. Canaan, Falls Village, not too bad. North Canaan, they're pretty, we don't have a problem there. So, and we don't want to have a problem in New Milford. We want it to be a nice, safe place for people to come. And they're coming, this very same people you want to bring into town want to feel welcomed the whole way.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Right. Great.
Any other questions for Mayor Gambino or Mark? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions?
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Mayor.
Mark.
Thank
Thank
you,
you
Mark.
both.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
you guys
When,
coming.
when can I pick up the
We
signed
can
doc?
sign it right now if you want, Mayor.
Yeah, let's wait for it.
Pass it on down.
Hey, wow.
Put the pen where our mouth is, so to speak.
You know what you're signing, sir? I hope you,
I know how you feel, Diva.
You know.
wait a minute, was that a jacket?
No.
Okay.
All right,
So we just
can
need
we
to sign
move
that?
along while we
Yeah, we just need to
sign?
sign it, and then we'll give it to Mayor
Okay.
Gambino.
Great.
So, in the interest of moving things along.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Item 11, the Department of Public Works. I'd like to make a motion to allow the mayor to pursue a lease agreement for the ESG project.
Second?
Jack and Maureen, could you come up and give us an update on the ESG project and the opportunity to, with the council's approval, to allow us to enter into negotiations for a lease agreement?
My part's easy on this. I'm going to introduce Doreen Hamilton because she's the brains that, I think you know we've been working on this probably for over a year, putting together an energy savings program for the town of Milford. It's a combination of capital equipment. It's a combination of changing processes and procedures. And it's also it's a part of a project that will implement an energy management system, which is something that, again, I think I went a little bit during the discussion about public works, but it's a way for us to control our energy costs, our capacity charges and load charges going forward. So anyway, Doreen has all the details. I'm going to let her go through it for you.
And real quick, Maureen, sorry to interrupt. This was approved by the Board of Ed already, just so everyone knows. They went to the Board of Ed. Board of Ed approved it.
And we have given presentations to the town council, to the Board of Ed, to the Board of Finance, and to the WPCA. We have included the WPCA in this study. They are, as far as the place where you can save a good portion of money, the WPCA, they run a lot of motors, they run a lot of very energy-intensive operations, so we include them in this study.
And where are they in their approval process?
They reviewed it. We didn't really ask them for approval. We asked them
Okay.
to review it.
But they- okay.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I've had the pleasure of being in your buildings many days, many nights. Had the pleasure of talking to you a lot about energy efficiency, and taking what you have and maintaining that asset, and using this and now as an asset that you're going to manage going forward. And I think what Jack had said in previous discussions, it's managing and being proactive versus reactive. And you're on that path. All these projects that you're talking about, all of them have energy intensity as part of those projects. We've been in your many days, many nights, and your roofs and your buildings and your boiler plants. It's been a lot of fun for us, and a lot of questions. Trust me, we were there when no one else was in those buildings some days. And this project, just to think about it, If you looked at it, it's 92 individual projects across your portfolio of buildings. So it's 23 energy conservation measures sprinkled about in all your buildings. And what we've given you now is called an investment grade audit. Now that is kind of like your cornerstone to build on capital improvement plans, to build upon future energy plans, to grow this asset that you're starting from today. So you're bringing your energy use index down. You're putting on some solar in some of the buildings. We're looking at others to capture both energy incentives, LRECs, ZRECs from the state of Connecticut, as well as Class 3 renewable energy credits. We looked at all the different buckets we can to buy down the cost of this program, and we look at this like it's our community, our town every day. We fight for this money, and trust me, as I've said to the mayor many a day, there's more money to be had, and we're going to keep digging for it on your behalf. And that's our charter, right? To make you energy efficient, and not forget that all of these projects are funded through the energy and operational savings and the incentives that we derive from this project. There's no capital outlay. This is a self-funding program over the 20-year term. And I know I've talked about it a lot and dug into the details, but it's a great project, and I'm really, really excited about it for you and the
Doreen,
community.
just to refresh the council, this is a project, the scope of how many millions?
I'm sorry?
How many millions is the scope?
$15 million.
15 million, of which we can take off of our capital plan
Right.
at no additional cost to the taxpayer.
Correct.
By just using the energy savings.
Correct. It's a wonderful program.
And just as a
15
history
million
again.
annually or over the 20 years?
So what you're doing is, and Doreen, correct me if I'm wrong, so for instance, what the cost would be from the lease payment.
Oh, gotcha.
Whatever that
Right,
monthly
right,
cost
right,
is,
right.
we just reduce that amount of our energy costs per annum, and that's guaranteed by the ESCO.
Yeah,
Right. Now, will the energy cost increase delivery charge? Yes. But they'd increase if we did this program or not.
Correct.
But this is a great way to take 15 million of capital requirements that we need and use the same money as we're using today in our energy department and getting it off the books.
Yep.
And what other towns are doing this?
Sure. The Town and Schools of Enfield, Connecticut, the Town and Schools of Stratford, Connecticut, the Town and Schools of Branford, Connecticut, the City and Schools of Waterbury, Connecticut, Bridgeport, Connecticut, East Haven, Connecticut, West Haven, Connecticut, Southington, Meriden, Danbury, 9 phases. I mean, there's just on and on and on. This is just a steady program that you keep digging and digging and digging. And now that we're, part of your team, which we've been a part of this team, it's been great. We're going to keep bringing those things to the forefront. What do you think about this? Or one of my other customers doing X or Y. How could it be used in the town of New Milford? So we're always bringing those types of projects forward, or those ideas. Whether they fit or not, we want to bring those ideas forward so you understand and know about them.
Excellent. This same type of financing mechanism is used in the commercial space. It's called CPACE. It's the ability for businesses to borrow using their existing energy spend, determine what their savings are, and then use that savings to finance these projects without any money out of their pocket for 20 years. We're lucky that it's also available for municipalities. This is one of the most cutting-edge things that we can attempt to do here by upgrading our buildings and becoming more energy efficient, and using those savings to pay for this project.
And if the savings don't come to fruition, then we're not paying.
We're not on
And
the
We write you
what
a check.
happens?
Right.
Yeah, what
There you go.
happens?
They
That's a good
guarantee it.
question.
Yep.
That's good, right.
It's a no-brainer.
It's a no-brainer.
It's a no-brainer.
So if I could, someone entertain a motion to allow,
You did.
oh, you did, I'm sorry.
Second.
I
Hang on a
did, and Tom seconded.
Okay.
You remember us.
It's a long night. It's a long night.
We've been here for a little while.
Any other discussion on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions?
Okay.
Thank you
Doreen.
so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 11B, I'd like to move that we approve the creation of a scenic road committee for Long Mountain Road.
Second.
Should have seconded that.
Any,
Okay.
No, I'm not seconding it. I think we should,
Oh, you read the letter, sorry.
yeah,
Chris Cuthbert.
Chris?
Several things on this. By ordinance, do we have to do this committee?
Yes, in order to take any action on scenic roads, you have to have a committee.
And it's, okay. However, in my public participation, I'm not sure if everyone else received a letter from Michelle Shackelford or Norman Adler. He said he mailed it. I thought that might, probably got, I think it was snail mail, but
Yeah,
I'd just
wasn't
like to
it
read this very
Jess?
quickly. The reconstruction of Long Mountain Road was successful, and we are grateful that it was done professionally and efficiently. However, as they say, no good deed goes unpunished. Now the road is smooth and pothole-free. Many drivers exceed the speed limit, and a lot more vehicles utilize the road. The problem is that Long Mountain Road has a lot of curves and no painted lines down the middle. Consequently, the road is much less safe than it used to be. For some reason, a small section of the road was provided with a center line, but the rest of it was not. As longtime residents of Long Mountain Road, we have seen accidents and near misses when people were more careful so they didn't destroy their tires or suspensions. Now we have a beautiful road that is more dangerous. Please consider painting a center line on Long Mountain Road. You spent a lot of money fixing the road. You should spend a little bit more to finish the job. And if I'm not mistaken, with this, it's part of the plans anyway, is it not? The center line was part of the plans for the road, Long Mountain?
The line was there before.
Right. So I don't, I think if you want a committee, great, but again, it seems to be a moot point.
I think, Dave, we need to hear all of the residents up there. We had a substantial amount of residents that were concerned of painting the line there as well. So I think,
You mean aesthetic purposes?
correct.
Okay, well,
So-
if we have an accident and we know that we could have helped perhaps prevent that, it's our obligation.
So I think what we need to do is follow the ordinance,
Right.
have a scenic roads committee. Jack can then assess what we're doing as far as the traffic control. I've spoken to Chief Ceruto. Chief, have you had your officers up there doing control?
Yes, we're going to continue that.
And so we'll continue on with that. And I believe, Jack, it was one stripe, not two stripes, correct?
Yep.
So the scenic road committee, that committee then could make the decision to go from one stripe to two stripes.
So Dave, we do want to be, we want to
Absolutely.
hear both sides.
Yeah,
And to be fair, then we have, by
well,
virtue, we have to
technically,
have a
the way it
committee.
is now, you can pass on a curve.
No, the curves actually have two stripes on them.
You do.
Yes. Am I correct, Jack?
Not in the scenic road area.
Up on the curves on the beginning piece, do they have them on there?
Beginning, but the rest of it doesn't. That's my point. So you can pass on that road.
But the scenic road committee for this road would review and discuss and speak with the neighbors, and that's why we have it here. So, and to all the things you're saying, Dave, they're not without some validity, but there's another side to every coin, so this is the way we have to do it.
Okay, I'm just looking at it from a liability standpoint. I mean.
Well, that's what the committee will come up
Right.
with.
Jack?
I just want to also point out, if you see the letter, there are actually two parts to this. I'm also requesting the scenic road committee to evaluate the installation of a guardrail. As you pass Hine Road, if you look to the right, the road drops off very rapidly. And so, again, part of the scenic road ordinance is if we're going to modify the road, we need to have the scenic road committee. So I'm requesting them to also review that.
So for anything at all to happen, Dave, we have to have a committee.
And does that committee have a couple of members from the community plus members spread out from?
And members from the council too. I would ask Councilman Lawson and Councilman Cosgrove if they could be on that committee. It's okay with the council?
Yes,
Yeah. Okay.
yep.
Awesome.
Again.
Okay, so we have a motion, we had a second?
A second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you.
Great. Item number 12, Update from our finance director, Greg Ospow.
Good evening, all. This is my fiscal year 21 year-end update. On June 18th, in anticipation of going to the bond market in July, the town had a ratings review with Moody's. The town is currently rated AA+ by Standard & Poor's. The review went well, and we are hoping to get a AAA rating. We should receive that ratings review tomorrow. We're going out to the capital market to convert $9 million in bands to bonds, as well as issue $9.3 million in bands for the completion of the library project, repair of 2 bridges, and various road paving projects. I hope to get very favorable rates, perhaps around 2% or so for the bonds and under 1% for the bands. Year-end projection. As of June 23rd, town expenditures on a cash basis are at $37,206,081.71, and Board of Ed expenditures are at $60,502,323.99 for a total cash outlay of $97,708,405.70. Revenues as of June 23rd are at $104,613,444.54, with an expected additional tax collection of approximately $200,000 and Sherman tuition of $223,134.66 for a total revenue of $105,036,580.20. Consequently, after year-end and carried in force adjustments, the town will realize approximately a $2.2 to $2.7 million surplus. This is in addition to the anticipated surplus experienced by the Board of Education. There's also approximately $2 million in encumbrances outstanding between the town and Board of Ed that may impact the financial surplus amounts depending on how much ultimately gets liquidated between now and the end of August. This is all subject to final audit. On the expenditure side of the equation, some of the major drivers were public works and building maintenance capital, recycling tipping fees, gasoline, library salaries, contingency, Lanesville substation oil water separator, and unemployment compensation. On the revenue side, major drivers were bond premium, state revenues, and taxes. This surplus offers the town the opportunity to invest in one-time non-recurring capital expenditures and avoid the need to go to the bond market for these items, thereby saving the taxpayers tens of thousands in interest expense. Questions?
Okay, Greg?
Thank you, Greg.
Next, we're going to go into a executive session.
Yes, I'd like to move.
No, oh, sorry, Greg, carried in force.
Somebody what?
Carried in force.
Got
carried
year-end
in
adjustments
force.
and carried in force.
Oh, right. Gee, we're doing so well.
I sent a package out that included year-end adjustments for 2021.
Right.
And this is basically to do some window dressing for departments that have gone over budget. So when they're presented in the financials, that everything looks as though, you know, it's in the black. So I'm asking for in-service contracts, $460, IT department, $1,000, and building inspector, $15,000. And the reason for the building inspector transfer is because Tom Hackett, the former director, had retired, and he got his payout for all his accrued time, which is not budgeted. So I want to take the money from contingency, and that totals $16,460. Also, every year for police private duty, we budget $50,000 on each side of the equation, revenue and expenditure, and I'm looking to increase the appropriation to $250,000 on each side. And again, that's really window dressing. There's also a request of $525,000 to go to the assigned fund balance, and that's for a payment of one of our bonds for a 4-year road bond. And essentially, that's it. And I also am asking for the ability to, because this is obviously, it's fluid, I would like the opportunity, if need be, to transfer an additional $25,000 on top of this from contingency or wherever to true up all these numbers.
Chris?
Just a question on the retirement. I think in the private sector, don't you have to, as people accrue vacation, sick time, et cetera, don't you have to accrue for that in your budget? We don't do that?
No, it's not part of our budget. What we could do in the future is assign a certain amount of money and put it on the balance sheet, so as when people do retire, we would hit a balance sheet account and it wouldn't affect the budget.
Okay.
Dave? Yeah, the police private duty,
Yep.
250,000, and we only budgeted 16,000, is that right?
We do that every year.
That's
because we never know how much it's going to be. And frankly, that would increase the budget by that much.
Yeah. But
Okay, so
it's a little more transparent if we, from 16 to 250.
That's been past practice.
I understand it's past practice.
I could easily put $250,000 on each side of the equation, but we never know how much it's going to be. I may very well have to come back, nevertheless, at the end of the year to request a transfer anywads.
Or we could put it in
Listen,
the end of the year.
I'm open to suggestions.
Well, that's a pretty big spread. If it were, off by 50,000, I can go with that. But we're talking.
But it's supported by the revenue numbers. It's not as though.
I understand.
This is all based on private companies hiring us and paying us.
Right.
So
It's a money maker.
Money's coming out of our pocket.
It's a money maker.
Right, it's a money maker. We're just budgeting for it now.
Right.
We're expanding that number, or putting a higher number on it to be ready for it. With the way some of the development has been going on here, we just heard earlier that the building department's seeing more and more building permits, right? And we have a lot more going on.
Got it.
So
I can easily do that.
No,
I can do it in the future. It's
That's
merely window dressing.
No.
It's not really affecting.
You want budget transfers or a budget transfer of 25,000?
If during the course between now and August, as we pay down some of the bills, if an account goes over where it's going to show a department going over, say like maybe $100 or $200, in order to keep that department in the black, this gives me the latitude to transfer that money. You're giving me that authority. That's standard common practice we do every year.
No, and we'd be appraised of that action.
Sure, of course.
Have a motion to accept the carried and force and year-end adjustments.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions?
Okay.
Uh,
Thank you, Greg.
Next. Thank you, Greg.
Thanks, Greg.
Next, we're going to go into executive session.
No, the carried in force.
No, well, you didn't do that yet. Yes.
Didn't we just do that?
So we did them both.
No, that was just, they're
That was a year.
separate.
Right,
Okay.
go ahead.
So you just did the year-end.
I thought the motion was for.
Well, there's an A and B there, correct?
There's C, there's A, and
A,
there's
B,
B,
and
and there's
C.
C.
C,
Right.
right. So, the bottom line for the carried in force is $1,092,122. These were monies that were not spent, and the departments had made various requests to carry in force so they can spend it next year.
And a lot of this was due to COVID, and a lot of it was due to shortages of material
Right.
due to COVID.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion on the motion?
I didn't motion it,
You did motion that?
but thank you very much, Tom.
To Katie's
So-
motion, I'll second.
So moved.
And we have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you.
It's getting late, Tom.
Yeah,
That's
I
why.
know, I know.
Now we're going to go into.
Thank you,
executive.
Greg.
You're welcome.
Move that we move into executive session. I'd like to invite in attorneys DeBella, Tower, Brian Lastra, and Greg Ossenbaum.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to move that we return to regular session, and during the executive session, no motions were made, no votes were taken.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you.
Move on to item 14, Mayor.
The discussion of possible action, as we all have in our packets, the request for the Board of Education for their allocation year-end from Wendy Fallenbach. And that's to request the Town Council Board of Finance allocate the year-end balance for 2021, subject to final audit, the following: $200,000 to the already established COVID account, $100,000 to the turf replacement account, and the remaining balance to the capital reserve account.
Second.
Also, I don't know if you guys want to make this two separate motion or one motion, all one motion, okay? To request that the Town Council Board of Finance remove $282,889.73 from the capital reserve account to fund the following projects: the New Milford High School electronic sign, $45,829. New Milford High School gym floor dry scrub and resurface, $8,675. Architectural and engineering services proposal from Silver Petroselli and Associates for $6,600. Local portion of the funding required of the forthcoming State of Connecticut security grant of $201,785.73. And max renovations, and that's for the Litchfield transition of $20,000.
Second.
Who moved it?
I'll move it.
Okay.
So moved.
David
Sorry.
Lawson and Tom.
Any discussion on the motion?
Just real quick, Pete.
Yep.
That $100,000, that's going from where to where in the turf?
That's going to go into,
That'll
Right.
go into, there's
Replacement
There's
account.
an account under the capital reserve fund for turf field
Right.
replacement.
Yeah, it's on the.
Right.
So
on the
they're gonna
right.
put the two, they're putting that together with the
There's gonna
town?
be 100.
Yeah, yeah, we
We
each put
already-
20
Put them
in.
together, okay.
We already transferred the town's portion of $50,000
Right.
from this year's budget. That's there. I did that last week.
Okay.
So
And by
this
do-
is from their surplus going into.
and
the
Greg, by
same
doing that,
account.
it keeps us both sides even.
Right.
Yeah, so how much
Right.
are we?
Yeah, how much is total now?
Should be around 400.
Okay,
I don't
so
think it's
We
that
can
high,
get-
but
You can get us the number, right?
Yeah, we've got 15.
I'd be happy if it's
After or
400. Dave.
before this is done?
Well,
I'd be
after it's
ecstatic
done,
if it's
so
No,
we know.
after this.
Yeah, that'd be
After
nice.
the
Right.
100,000?
So,
Okay, thank
All
you.
right, any discussion on the motion? All those in favor?
aye.
Opposed?
You did have a, that, it's okay.
Any abstentions? Thank you.
Okay, item B. Mayor,
Next
would you like
is
to
the,
update us on the new Milford roof project?
Yes, ma'am, I would like to do that. So in speaking with our municipal building committee, this has been a pretty long process as we're looking to do the New Milford High School roof project. I'd like to update the council on that. So in so doing, we did get the bids back for this project, and the bid award would go to United Brookfield Standing Seam, of which they had a base bid of $4,548,000, using a 2% contingency, which the building committee felt was prudent, was $90,960. Soft costs were about $125,400 for a total projected cost of $4,764,360. Using the state reimbursement project cost of 41.73% of part of the project, and I'll update the council on that in just a moment. That's $1,687,852.98, which would leave a total project cost for the town of $3,076,507.02. So how did we arrive at this number? So what had happened was, when we got to, I believe it was February or March, once we got Petroselli giving us some costs, the Board of Education, due to state reimbursement, has to put in the application. They put in the application, and what came back was the costs for the project and reimbursement. First, the reimbursement. We're not getting a full reimbursement on the project for a couple of reasons. One, the age of the roof, and two, the flat work on the flat roofs the state is not going to reimburse us on that,
Which we had thought they were.
which we thought they would. Correct.
But we missed by a year.
So how much difference was that from the original?
So the
Right.
the differential between the two, when you add in the cost factor now of $400,000,
Okay.
and now we end up,
So it
the
was,
non-reimbursement part of it, I believe was another 420,000. The differential between what we thought the bid price was to what the cost is going to be for this project, when you look at escalating costs, and the differential from the state now giving us the money for the flat roof portion of it, that differential is around $870,000.
flat roof.
So there are two flat roof portions of the high school roof. So those flat portions of the roof, we're not getting reimbursed from the state.
And that's because we
Okay.
didn't certify them in a timely fashion?
Right.
So
And we
four-
miss out on the other part because it's
So-
19 years that the roof's been there, hasn't reached 20 years.
So I've
Kinda like my
spoken,
roads committee.
so I've spoken to our superintendent, I've spoken to,
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
to
So
also
400,000 is because of reimbursement, and the other 400,000 is from what?
escalation in price.
$400,000.
In metal.
Yep.
No metal, yeah.
We've got
It's costing the
shortages,
roof.
and though we all want this project to go as quickly
So
as
how are we
possible.
paying for this?
So that's one of the things I will be talking about in just a moment with my
It just seems,
next
that's
of
quite
the
a
plan.
miss, 800,000.
Well, when you have escalating costs in a $4.5 million project,
Lucky it's not plywood.
I
you're
mean,
going
a
to,
10% increase in costs in this environment isn't that crazy.
No, it's not that bad.
I mean, it's a lot of money, but
Yes.
it's,
Plywood was $25.
It's
now
not good.
I
Yeah.
know what it is.
It's,
I sold some scraps,
350%.
just
Yeah.
kidding.
It's absolutely crazy, this supplies right now, absolutely.
so and it wasn't, and Dave, it wasn't like we had the bid and the bid was awarded, and now we're like in the middle of the project, and
Yeah,
the project
yeah.
escalating
Yeah,
costs, this
because-
is pre.
So there's
this
no
is as we're
contract,
doing.
nothing.
Correct, so this is, we know this going in, this is what we're gonna have to do for a standing seam roof.
I'm surprised the contingency is only 2%.
They felt very comfortable, and so did Dean with this company.
Yeah.
I had the same thought process myself.
Yeah.
But they felt very strongly. And also within this, they also, according to Mark Rosa, who sits on the committee, there's also some availability, they think, allowances that we may be able to get back. 97,300 metal deck, plywood insulation decking assembly, 56,960. So he felt that those we may be able to get as kind of a not used and kind of a rebate back. So that could be helpful for the contingency as well, but
And this is the 50-year.
it's a 50-year lifespan.
roof.
Yep.
Nice thing is with standing seam, you can attach solar panels to it too.
yes.
So I just wanted to update the council, and then I'd like to move on to the next portion of,
Item C, discussion and possible action on our year-end balance.
which will explain a couple of things. So first, thank you. As we heard from our finance director, Greg Ossipow, the town itself, the good news is the town itself will experience surplus, as well as the Board of Education this year, for a couple of factors. One, most importantly, COVID again, as it was last year. If you do take a look at the surplus funds from last year to this year, it's about half. But we still experienced COVID. Part of it was heavy back in the summer, and then in the late fall, early winter, midwinter. With that being said, we have the ability to take these surplus funds and repurpose them, as our finance director say, for one-time capital expenditures that we can take off of our capital plans for further years and reduce that capital expenditure to our taxpayers, repurpose these funds. So that being said, I'd like to make a motion for this, with the surplus being at approximate, and speaking with our finance director, $2,211,052.50. I propose the following, and I'll hand this out. Thank you, Katie. The first is steel removal to Century Brass for $875,000. The New Milford High School roof, $450,000, and that's to help with the projected cost of $4,764,360, of which,
Go ahead. I thought it was 800 short.
I've spoken with our Board of Ed partners, and they are going to also come back and help partner with us for the high school roof.
Pete, just real quick, I thought Jack had mentioned it was 832,000.
I put the 875,000 in case there's any ancillary.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure I had the right, okay.
Yep. Lanesville Fire, as was talked about before, they had an oil separator that they needed to get done, but due to COVID, it couldn't happen, so I'm asking for that money to be there for $60,000. The New Milford Fire Capital, an additional $50,000, as those vehicles now have become more costly due to price escalations and COVID. $165,000 for 3 New Milford police cars, and speaking with the captain and Chief Ceruto. $15,000 for Sullivan Farm, a used truck.
What kind of
Speaking with Mark Mankin, it's like a van, and they're using that to deliver the vegetables from their farm to our food bank. As
But
right
they have
now,
a van.
they do not. As Mr. Mankin is using his own vehicle for that. So,
Okay.
social services, $25,000 for a truck van, and they use that to go pick up things from the food bank, and also from Stop and Shop and Big Y and all those.
Right.
The vehicle they have now is kind of on its last legs, according to Jack Healy and our maintenance mechanics. $26,000 for the town portion of the senior center kitchen grant that we got for design and a grease trap. The town portion for the senior center bus grant, we also get an 80-20 match with that. Our 20% is $16,000. And speaking with Lisa Morrissey, our digital health platform that we need to move into the 21st century on, as far as the health department,
Yes, indeed.
$70,000. The youth agency was a request from Jason O'Connor, our youth agency director, as we're moving into the mental health clinic component. They need some additional capital, so $13,000 for that.
For,
It could be chairs, it could be
Oh, for
iPad,
hard
yeah,
things.
hard
Gotcha.
stuff, yeah. $75,000 for an additional payment to our pension. $120,000 for a salt shed, an additional one, as we spoke about a little earlier. That's going to help us drive efficiencies as currently right now. When they need that specific salt sand, they have to open up a tarp, and if it's frozen, dig it out. And this way, it's in a dry, secure place, and it's much more efficient when the guy can go in and dig it out with a tractor rather than frozen and ripping off a tarp, which is an extra 40 minutes.
And this is something that could also be reassembled on a new
Correct.
location down the line.
$100,000 for IT, which we continue with our updating and upgrading of the network and computer capabilities. Park and Rec, $33,500 for an F-150 truck. $660 for 2 weed eaters, so we can do commercial weed eaters rather than Home Depot weed eaters. Not anything's wrong with Home Depot, but commercial ones,
Yeah, they last.
last a little better. 2 commercial backpack blowers of $1,300. A brush hog attachment at $3,800. And a leaf collection system, and speaking for the truck, speaking with Dan for $5,200. That's really going to help them create efficiencies as they go to parks and our fields, especially our parks have lots and lots of leaves. And it helps, exactly.
is that similar to the one that the DPW uses to suck the leaves up?
I think kind of a little similar, but not that way, but it does vacuum them up.
So it's a
And then-
system that goes on an existing truck?
Correct. And then an approximate 106,000 to our capital reserve. And this is all, it all must be validated by our auditors.
Correct. And any additional, if there's any more on
Yep.
top of that, that
Would go to the capital reserve
Right.
when we get those year-end numbers. And does anybody have any questions?
Mayor? Number 8, the senior center kitchen grant design and grease trap. That needs to be done before we can move the Culinary Institute in there, so that
Absolutely.
helps
Correct.
us pave the
Can't
way
cook
for
in
that.
there, can't
Right.
without the
And this, we received a grant from the state for that design
Yep.
work. I know Jack and his team were working on that, but there's our match,
Yep, good.
which was the 26,000. Dave?
Well, I'm not prepared to vote on any of this evening for several reasons. I've had this for 5 minutes and I'm going on $1 million spending spree, and I'd really like to have time to think about that. I'd also would encourage us to postpone it as well so that we could have a fuller membership of the town council. We just barely have a quorum this evening, and I think those members should have a voice as well. And I think the public should have some input on some of this. I mean, I don't think anybody's going to dispute anything on the list, but I just got this, and I'm not used to spending $1 million that quickly.
Well, I think
Well, it's
Dave.
2 million.
Couple,
$2 million.
It's true.
And every single thing on the list, as you just said, Dave, these are things that we need to take care of. It's an opportunity to do it
Right.
one time without impacting anything. And I think that in these 16 items, we've covered some big things
Right.
that we all want to see taken care of.
I'm not disputing that. What I'm saying
So
is,
why time then?
well, we can't spend it until we get a final audit anyway. Why can't we get more
But there's
voices
steps
and
to
more?
be taken on this. I think, just personally, other people can chime in after me. I'm just going to say that I think the mayor put a lot of thought into the items. Some of them we've talked about tonight, some we've talked about many times, as you know. And if you start going through it one by one, you can find anybody that's at the table right now who could give you a good argument why we do need to have 3 new police cars, why we do need to fix the high
But
school
there may
roof,
be other
why we do
things
need a
that-
salt shed. I know you're not going to argue with all those things, so that's my point in saying why I'm ready to vote on this tonight.
Okay, but other people might have other
Right?
ideas.
Well, we all have a chance, and that's my time. It's up to you now. I just want to say
Well,
mine.
I'm saying other people, including the residents
Well,
of New Milford, may have some
I-
other ideas. I mean,
I don't know that we've ever had our, any surplus go up for resident
For
vote.
I
have
know,
we?
public comment is what I'm talking about.
well,
Ideas,
I'm sure they'll
ideas.
make comment after.
Well,
Tom?
I'm in support of this because, listen, there are things on this list that have been here for years. You know,
Absolutely.
I've watched the guys drive around in 20-year-old trucks and old police cars, and I don't think there's anything that is a luxury here at all. This is all a necessity. I've seen some of this stuff on before. I mean, we've been here long enough, we know what needs to be done. I'm confident in this.
Our health department, our youth agency, both need to come into the 21st century.
Totally.
In terms of physical health, mental health. IT, we're still behind the curve, working
Yeah.
at it. I don't know. I
In
see
was
it
a
all.
terms
disaster
of
for years.
police cars, we either pay for them now, or they go in the capital budget in
Right.
other years where we may not have surpluses.
With a 5% escalator more than likely if we wait a year.
Yeah.
And
everything's
adding
going up.
75,000 to the pension budget, that's a good use.
Yeah, that's great,
So,
yeah.
You know, there's an opportunity here, we have a surplus. Obviously, I understand your concerns, Dave, but when we have a surplus, if we don't use the money now, then we're gonna use it later on, and costs are gonna go up.
we can't wait 2 weeks?
So my point is that, you know, these are necessities, these are things that we need. And if we're ready to vote on it, then now could be the time to vote on it. It's in front of us now.
Well,
And one of
that's-
these, and a
I
couple of
don't
these
understand.
items, the roof, the
No,
removal
the
of the
urgency
steel.
of the vote, not the urgency of the
Because those
items.
things, I'll give you a couple of things right there, the roof, that we need to make we're making a decision on it, we've made a decision, we're moving forward with it. The the youth agency, the health department, why wait? Jack already talked about the salt. We might have a freeze one of these nights. I understand what you're saying, Dave, but I
I'm just
just,
saying more voices in the.
But you don't know who's going to be here in 2 weeks.
Well, hopefully more council
Well,
members.
I know, but we could have the same people in front of us, and then this whole discussion's mute.
Very well.
And Greg, your opinion, the use of these funds meets the criteria as our finance director?
Oh, yeah, they're all, they're capital. I'm not disputing the items. What I'm saying is, other people may want to weigh in. It's that simple, including our fellow council members.
So we have a motion and a second.
You don't have a motion.
No, sorry. We have a
so
motion.
you did move it, but I should have said it. So I will move that we use the estimated town surplus of $2,210,460 as per the items, 16 items that the mayor listed, and all of that, of course, is dependent on the year-end balance being confirmed by the auditors.
Second.
Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions?
Are you opposing or abstaining?
Opposing.
Any other?
Who's got the deepest voice in the room?
I got nothing else, okay. You can be
Motion to
Walter.
adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay. Oh, he's in a nice, warm,
Greg,
lovely
what are we
place
going
right
to do
now.
with the $592?
Nobody can match that voice.
I know.
All those in favor?
Can we
Motion
put
to
that into town
adjourn.
council meal fund?
Thank you.
Yeah.
We could get Randy.
Thank you, everybody.